Hi there, my name is Reverend Ken Kimiywe, the Deputy Bishop of Christ is the Answer Ministries, and I also serve as the Senior Pastor at CITAM Buruburu. And I'm glad you're joining us again on these platforms as we talk about the whole institution of marriage, and more specifically, we are looking at the marriage covenant. And we began by establishing the fact that marriage has been played down. There are so many enemies that are coming against marriage and that are making marriage look like an ancient and old-time thing that does not apply and cannot work in the 21st century. And so we began by, number one, saying that marriage is permanent. When we get into marriage, we normally make those vows and say, till death do us apart. And those vows are not just our own saying. It is God who has said that, man shall live and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. In other words, you get into a permanent commitment with one another. And then secondly, we also saw that this whole institution of marriage is not just our own idea. It is God's idea. It is God who created us male and female and brought us to the place where we can now relate with one another as husband and wife. And so we talked about the sacredness, the involvement of God in the marriage institution. Today, by the grace of God, I want us to look at yet another aspect that defines and characterizes marriage as a covenant, and that is the whole aspect of intimacy in marriage. In Genesis chapter 2 and verse 23 and 25 there, the Bible says that when God brought these two people together, he brought a union of a man and a woman. And sometimes people have made a joke out of it. He didn't make Adam and Steve, but he made Adam and Eve. There were not two men, but two people of two gender, a man and a woman. And as we talk about intimacy in marriage, we shall see that when God created this institution of marriage, and when he says that a man shall leave his father and mother and unite to his wife, who is female, the two shall become one flesh. Now, that becoming one flesh is in a way talking about the intimacy of marriage, where the two of them can share, the two of them can dream together. The two of them are vulnerable to each other. They can know and they can understand deep things about one another. Intimacy talks about knowing your spouse, knowing your partner in marriage in such a way that you would almost interpret their reflex actions. Because there is that intimacy, there is that sense of belonging to one another. It's very unfortunate that in the times that we are living in, people just come to stay together for the convenience of staying together. And then, as I said earlier on, we have all these other alternative lifestyles that are telling us that a man can be able to get involved with another man. When God created man, he made him to be the male. In other words, the male is the one who holds the sperm, and which he gives to the woman who contains that sperm. She has the womb. And when the two come together in sexual intimacy, we see that this is how God originally intended for marriage to be. It's very unfortunate and sometimes very absurd, and indeed is a great abomination when we can suggest that a man can have sexual relationship with another man, or a woman can have a sexual relationship with another woman. In any of those two relationships, whether it is a man with a man or a woman with a woman, there is no reproduction. And that negates the whole purpose of what God intended marriage to be. We see in the very same book of Genesis chapter 2 that he gave them the blessing to go and multiply and subdue the earth. Now, in those kind of relationships where a man pursues a man or a woman pursues another woman, they cannot propagate, they cannot procreate as God had intended. And so when we are talking about the intimacy of marriage, as part of the definition of the marriage covenant, we are saying God made man and God made a woman, and he brought them into this institution called marriage, so that with their different roles of male and female, they can be able to procreate and establish a family. In the absence of that, all else that we are doing is a human ingenuity, and it will be all working against the purpose and the will of God. And so as we look at life now and how things are going, I would like to encourage that this intimacy goes beyond just the physical. If you read the book of Ecclesiastes again, chapter 4, the Bible says that two have a better return for their work than if it was only one of them. Then secondly, it also says that if one falls down, the other will be able to pick them up. In other words, there is companionship that we can enjoy in marriage. There is that support that we receive from one another. We supplement and complement one another in our relationship in marriage. That intimacy is a God-given gift that any relationship can enjoy, so long as they are doing it in the glory and for the glory of God. And so I would like to invite us as we listen to this presentation. If you have any question you want to ask, or any comment you want to make, we are available on Twitter, we are available on Instagram, or even on Facebook, or even YouTube. You can join up with us on any of those platforms, and we would be more than glad to assist you and direct you in how you can make your marriage, your relationship with your husband or wife, an intimate relationship.